Hello and welcome, dear model railway friends, to another digital video. In one of our last videos, we showed how to switch points with our turnout decoder, 10836. But the decoder can do much more. What, you will see in this video. To show what our decoder can do, I have prepared something. It can switch the normal turnout drives. You can switch uncoupling tracks or motor drives that require a certain switching time. In addition, you can switch the outputs to continuous current, for example for the lighting, light signals, semaphore signals, and you can also set alternating flashing. For example, you can connect your St. Andrew's crosses directly to the decoder without additional switching electronics. A pre-configured decoder is now installed on the diorama, with all functions already set. This means that you can switch the coil drive, the motor drive, the signal, and also the St. Andrew's crosses can be switched on and off as well as the lighting. I hope you can see that it can be toggled on and off. Here we now have our pre-configured decoder, where the individual inputs are set according to the connected accessories. Now we take the decoder as it came out of the packaging and see what happens. To do this, I just take my connections and connect them to my decoder. If I now switch output 1, you can see that the switch switches normally. Why? The decoder is factory set to pulse, which means that it sends a short switching pulse that the coil drive needs. He gets the switching impulse and then switches the point tongues to the right or left. Now I switch the motor drive. You can hear the next time I shift gears, and maybe you can also see it, that it first drives a little further. This means that it does not move all the way to the end position, because the switching pulse is too short to actually switch the motorized drive to the end position. So, you have to adjust the output accordingly. If you now switch on the lighting, you can see that the lamp comes on briefly, the switching pulse reacts, the switching pulse ends, the lighting goes out again. It is similar with the light signal. The lamp, the LED, lights up briefly, but you want a permanent red or green light, as do the St. Andrew's crosses. There is just a short switching pulse, but there is no alternating flashing. So, let's take a look at the guide and learn what you need to configure. With our form signal, you can see that the LED is permanently on because the LED is connected to the permanent current. Here the switching impulse is only responsible for the wing, so the LED is operated by the direct current, lights up continuously and is not switched via the decoder. The decoder comes with a quick guide. The detailed operating instructions can be found under the product decoder on our homepage. You can download the document as a PDF here. Why isn't the user manual included? The German version alone is over 20 pages. When it is translated and settled in all languages, it will be a very large one. First, I want to show you how we program the address of the decoder. By default, the decoder is always programmed in blocks of 8. This means that the first decoder has the address 1 to 8, the next 9 to 16, and so on. For programming, there is the programming button up here. You have to press it for about 3 seconds and then you can see that programming is flashing. Now you switch a turnout from the group of 8 that you want to program. For example, switch number 3 and switch it once. Now I see that it is back on the status again. The decoder is now programmed for the group of 8 with switch 3, i.e. 1 to 8. I'll briefly show you the next group again. Press the programming button for about 3 seconds, the programming lamp flashes. Now select the 9 for the next group of 8. Shift once. It's back to status, and if you now switch the turnout with address 9, you can see that the turnout now reacts to address 9. Well, you can of course not only program the decoder with the mouse using the programming button, but also with the Z21 app under CV Programming. Under the item Manual, there is the item POM Accessories. POM means Program on Main, programming via the main track and accessories for the accessory decoder. You can now read out CVS here. Now it shows address 1, but you can also change the address here and thus program the decoder via the app. Here I show you an excerpt from our operating instructions, where you can see that there are many CVS that can be programmed. I will now show you which CVS are relevant and what is really needed. The most important CV values are 41 to 48, representing our outputs 1 to 8. This means that if you program CV41, output 1 is reprogrammed, CV47 is output 7, and so on. Here I have our modes that we can set. Normal pulse operation is set by default. You can set alternating flashing, continuous operation, etc. I'll show you how to program that now. First, I would like to show you the whole thing again with the multi-mouse and then also with the Z21 control app. Output 1 does not have to be reprogrammed. He should remain on impulse operation for our switch. But output 2, i.e. CV42, we have to change. We need to increase the switching time for our motor drive. To program with the mouse, we have to switch our mouse over to POM programming. To do this, press the Shift and Menu keys at the same time to get to the menu. Then you go to Programming, press OK and then Mode. Confirm again with OK. On the one hand there is the CV mode and on the other hand the POM mode, which we now need to program the decoder. Confirm again with OK. You can go back with the Stop button. Now we are still in the programming menu, press OK again. We now want to change a CV. In order for the decoder to accept the change, you have to press the programming button again for about 3 seconds until it goes back into programming mode. Now we enter the CV42 that we want to change on our mouse under Change CV, confirm with OK. Enter the value 4 for continuous operation, press OK again. Now the decoder has jumped back to the normal status. If you now leave the program menu with Stop and Switch, you can see that the drive always moves to the end position because it moves as long as it receives the switching command. Because the operation is permanent. As a second example, we will reprogram the street lamp. It is connected to output 8, so you need CV48. I go back to the menu via Shift plus Menu button, Program, OK, Change CV, OK. Now you have to press the programming button on the switch decoder again. Now I want to change CV48, press OK and decide that the simulation should be in continuous operation with incandescent lamps, i.e. value 5, and confirm with OK. With Stop, you come back. If you now select output 8 and switch on the lamp, you will see that the lamp not only comes on briefly, but that it lights up continuously. This incandescent lamp effect slowly fades out or slowly fades in. I will now show you how to program a signal using the Z21 control app. Click on CV Programming again, then on Manual and switch to POM Accessories. Here you select output 6 for the signal under the CV address, i.e., 46. We also want to switch it to continuous current. Therefore, value 5 is chosen. If the signal is now switched, it should light up continuously. If you now switch to output 5 to find out which value is programmed on it, you must first click on Read CV. We see, default value, value 0. Our signal has value 5, which has just been programmed. Of course, you can also switch the signal via the app. To do this, switch to the Signal box. Here you can see a track diagram. You click on plus and select a signal, a 2-aspect signal, and just put it there. To configure the signal now, tap on the signal and go to the gear wheel. Now the signal has to be told which address it has. To do this, click above and enter the number 6. Press Save and click Back. If you now go to the menu and tap on the signal, you can see that the signal can be switched, but the signal image does not match. If it is green here, the signal lights up red. If it is red here, the signal lights up green. So back again briefly, Signal box, tap Signal. Go to the gear wheel for the settings and adjust the photo. Press Save. If you go back to the menu, the picture matches the switching of the signal. So, now the St. Andrews crosses are still missing, which are now being programmed. We go back to the programming menu, back to POM programming for the accessory. These are connected to output 7, so I want to program CV47. Currently it is the value 0 and for flashing alternately, and the value according to the instructions is 1. Now the value 1 is programmed in CV47. You go back to the Signal box, add a switch and store the address 7 for the switch. Save. If you now go back to the controls and press the switch, the St. Andrews crosses will also flash. That was the CV programming with the multi-mouse and the Z21 app. But the whole thing is much easier with the Z21 Pro link. To show how easy programming is with the Z21 Pro link, the turnout decoder is reset to factory settings. To do this, hold down the programming button until all LEDs light up. The status LED flashes. You can see that the lights have gone out. The decoder is now reset to the factory settings. Under Status, you can see what is connected. Here it is, the Z21 switch decoder. Since we know that, we want to adjust it now. So select Settings. Here you can change the module address and scroll down with the arrow key to get to the inputs. Input 1, Input 2, and so on. Input 1 can stay the way it is. We want to change Output 2. For example, you can increase the switching time by simply increasing it using the switching time arrow button and confirming it with the middle button. Output 2 is now programmed. Let's scroll all the way down to Output 8, to the lamp. This should be set to continuous operation. To do this, continuous operation is selected and confirmed, and thus continuous operation has been programmed. Programming the outputs with the Z21 Pro link is so quick and easy. Another handy feature of the Z21 Pro link is its micro USB port. This means that the Z21 Pro link can also be powered via an external power supply. What do you need that for? For example, if you don't have a Z21 or if the control center is built into the system, but the decoder should be programmed in advance. Then you can omit the voltage supply from the decoder and supply the Z21 Pro link and the decoder via the USB connection. I'll show you now. Disconnect the power supply from the decoder. Now he gets no more voltage from the control center. Now connect a micro USB cable instead. You can see the Z21 Pro link has power and the switch decoder also has power. The status LED flashes. But why? Because there is no DCC signal, you don't need that for programming. Now you can go back to the settings and program the decoder outputs in exactly the same way as shown before. Outputs 5 and 6 still have to be programmed. The latter is switched to continuous current for the signals. Now we still have to program output 7 for the St Andrews cross to flash. This is now very easy, very fast programming. As we have seen, the display is very small, not very legible for everyone. But that's not a problem. You also have the option of connecting the Pro link to the WLAN. For example, with the Z21 WLAN network. Then you can view the setting options with the maintenance tool in large format in the Z21 app, on the PC or on the laptop. To connect to a WLAN network, go to the wireless setting here, click on Search. Then all networks found in the area will be displayed. Here it is the Z21 I select and enter the password that can be found on the router. Confirm with the middle button. The data is saved. Now the WLAN antenna is still flashing, but as soon as it is connected, this is indicated by the 3 bars and the blue status LED flashes. The USB power adapter is still connected. This means that no command station is connected to the switch decoder yet. You can still start programming via the app. Under the item Settings, there is the item Z21 link. The connected Z21 Pro link is displayed there. If you tap on it, you basically have the menu as it is on the Pro link, only in large. If you click on Settings again here, you will see the same menu and can configure the inputs. For example, you can set flashing, it's extremely fast, extremely easy, extremely clear, and the whole thing is completely CV free. We have the 8 outputs. You can also dim the LED lamps via the various outputs. Because the LED lamps are actually all much too bright for a narrow alleyway in the train station. It's more like stadium lighting. But you can reduce the luminosity from 100% to 25% and thus customize it. But, this is important, the series resistor must always be connected before the LED. A setting that may be of interest if you are using the Z21 switch decoder with a third-party command station is the activation of RCN 213. What does that mean? The counting method used by Roku and Fleischmann as well as by other manufacturers for the addresses of decoders is slightly different. Due to the early history of digital control. Therefore, if you use a Roku Fleischmann decoder with a third-party command station, you have an address offset of 4. This means that you switch address 5, but address 1 is switched. But in order to remain compatible with third-party command stations, you have to activate the RCN 213. Then you don't have any problems with the address offset and you can switch turnout 1 directly with your central unit in the decoder. Now I'll show you how programming works in the maintenance tool. This is a similarly clear window, but you'll see it live in a moment. The IP address of the Pro link is required so that the maintenance tool can be connected to the Pro link. To do this, select Wireless and scroll down. Here is the IP address and you will see 101 at the end. You switch parallel to the maintenance tool. Here you can see the field for the IP address, where the IP address of the Z21 is entered by default. However, we do not want to connect to Z21, but directly to the Pro link. So now I enter 101, the IP address of the Pro link, and click Connect. Now the maintenance tool shows that you are connected to the Switch Decoder. Here, via the decoder settings, you can now configure your decoder individually. Here I can now choose between pulsed operation, alternating operation, continuous operation, depending on what is connected. You can also set the switching times directly. As I showed earlier, also the lighting. You can easily adjust the dimming value using the slider. You can set the switch on status directly. This means that you can choose whether the color of the signal is red, green, or off when Y. You apply power to the track. Depending on how you want it, a signal is connected, the lighting is connected, I want to switch on the lamp manually. So, for example, should the lamp remain switched off? But my signal is always supposed to be red when I turn it on. I can program the whole thing again extremely quickly directly in plain text. I set everything, click on Right below and my switch decoder is programmed without having to look at any CV value, directly in plain text. It couldn't be easier to program. Selecting the decoder status at the top of the tab will show what each output is doing. The alternating blinker flashes, continuous operation lights up, and if you switch the points at output 1, for example, you can see the pulse briefly. This means that the switch is switched. This can be used to display what the decoder is currently doing. Today's video on the subject of Z21 switch decoders and Z21 Pro link also ends with this status image. Thanks for watching, enjoy the video, enjoy trying, and see you next time.